One game that is sometimes mentioned in the context of the history of role-playing games in Japan is an unassuming espionage adventure game by Pony Canyon called Spy Daisakusen. Spy Daisakusen means spy operation, and it's the Japanese title of Mission Impossible. However, in this case, they aren't referring to the movie series, but to the original TV show from the 60s. This game was supposedly released in 1983, and it is one of the many licensed games that Pony Canyon published. Is Spy Daisakusen just a cheap cash grab? And how does it fit into the history of role-playing video games in Japan? These are the questions that I want to answer here. Spy Daisakusen begins with the playback of a tape recording and the iconic words, "Good morning, Mr. Phelps." This refers to Jim Phelps, the leader of the Impossible Missions Force, a group of secret agents that take on particularly dangerous missions. The goal of this game is to infiltrate a base of enemy spies and to steal certain secret documents from an archive. If you also manage to escape alive from the building, your performance will be ranked as well. To aid you in your mission, you are allowed to choose freely from a variety of items at the beginning. You can choose which weapon to wear, such as a classic Derringer or Walther P-38, which fit the espionage setting very well. However, you could also select an assault rifle or a flamethrower. How this is supposed to fit into the espionage setting is a riddle to me, but at least every weapon has different attack and weight values. You can also select grenades, knives, time bombs or sleeping gas, all of which are useful to some extent. There are two items that you absolutely have to take with you to be able to fulfill your mission at all. These are a suitcase and a kit for the retrieval of documents. Apart from these, there is also a disguise kit which played a crucial role in the TV series. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any use for this item in the game. Similarly, the ammunition and the fire extinguisher didn't seem to have any use either. As already mentioned, these items and weapons have a certain weight associated with them. You can only carry a certain number of items with you depending on your physical strength. Spy Daisakusen has status attributes for your protagonist, which are randomly generated at the beginning of each game session. There is stamina, physical strength, accuracy, explosive power, judgment, and luck. I'm ashamed to admit that despite several runs of this game, I could never figure out how exactly these values influence the game. I can only say with certainty that physical strength determines your maximum weight. Also, you can take up to 2 hits before you die and your mission fails. After suffering a single hit, you can go to a first aid room and heal your injury. However, you'll permanently lose 1 point of physical strength by doing that. You also have to make sure that you never carry more with you than what your physical strength allows for. If you carry more with you, you will die instantly. Stamina and physical strength can go up to 19, whereas the remaining values can only go up to 6 each. Again, the higher the better. And like I said, I couldn't figure out the exact mechanics behind these values, but I believe that they affect the hit percentage and the evasion rate. Because when I had low stats, I could barely hit enemies and would get hit more often as well. The weapon I carried didn't seem to have much of an influence, since I was frequently able to clear an entire room of enemies with just one clip of a Walther P-38, but only if my status attributes, such as accuracy, were high enough. The typical gameplay loop is as follows. You search 6 floors of an office building that serves as a secret base for enemy spies. You are in a first-person perspective and walk along a straight corridor, the presentation of which is similar to that of the dungeons in Ultima or Wizardry. There are 5 doors on each side of every floor, corresponding to a total of 60 rooms. What is inside these rooms is randomly generated at the start of every playthrough. There are different rooms to discover, such as first aid rooms or ammunition rooms. Some rooms are just empty or useless storage rooms. However, in some of them you can steal documents, which increases your score at the end of the game. The main goal is to find the archive and steal the documents therein by using the suitcase and the kit for the retrieval of documents. After that, you just have to make it out of the building alive. The rooms are usually filled with a number of randomly generated enemy agents that you can either ignore or kill. There are several methods available to you. For example, when you're using a firearm, you can either shoot haphazardly throughout the room or aim at targets. If you choose aim, the room will be divided into 4 rectangles numbered 1 through 4. You select one of these numbers and then attack all enemies within that rectangle. But if there are a lot of enemies in a room, it will be difficult to finish all enemies. In addition, I couldn't notice any advantage to taking aim. It's actually much more effective to just shoot wildly around the room because this allows you to potentially hit every enemy in a room. If you have high status attributes, you might even be able to clear an entire room of enemies with a single clip from a Walther P-38. If enemies survive your attack, they will shoot back at you. Whether the enemies hit or not is calculated automatically. And as I've said before, it's game over once they hit you twice. The combat system may sound overly complicated, but for me it was sufficient to just shoot around like a maniac. Theoretically, you could put the enemies to sleep with your sleeping gas or straight up bomb them to pieces with your hand grenades. However, you have to watch out to not do this in a machine room. Otherwise, it will blow up and with it the entire building. In other words, you die and you will get reprimanded for your stupid behavior. Another challenge is actually escaping the building, because in order to move between the different floors, you have to use the elevator every time. But unfortunately, there is a random chance that you will be ambushed and killed just because you were using the elevator. I could not figure out what caused this and how to avoid it. I find this very unfortunate as this seems to be based on pure luck and it could ruin your entire playthrough of this game. If it wasn't for this frustrating random element, I would have enjoyed this game much more. To summarize, Spy Daisakusen is sort of a proto-RPG in the style of a dungeon crawler. There are randomly generated status attributes even if they are fixed and can't be increased. But at least the status attributes have an effect on the outcome of battles, even if I can't say how exactly they work and if they affect anything else. Finally, you also have a selection of items available and you can even replenish some of them during the adventure. However, there are no armors to be found and it's unclear whether the different weapons actually make a difference in the game. So there are plenty of elements that are typical for a role-playing game, even if they aren't as well developed as Western gamers would typically expect of an RPG. But still, you have to commend Spy Daisakusen for introducing some Japanese to the concept of a 3-dimensional dungeon RPG, albeit in a stripped-down form. So whether you consider this game to be a proper role-playing game or not, it still made a contribution to the development of the RPG genre in Japan.